the Miracles and Millions show. This is your go-to show for living a life of miracles, where we're taking the limits off what you believe is possible. It's time to play big, be bold, and shine bright. I'm your host, Michelle Humphrey. Today's awesome guest is James Robilotta. I gotta tell you, James, I love saying your name. And let me tell you who he is and the power of this interview. James Robilotta is an author, a speaker, a personal coach, an MC, and an entrepreneur. And he's written the book Leading Imperfectly, and it's available wherever people buy books. And as he says, he speaks to people who are both willing and unwilling attendees, all about authentic leadership, vulnerability, and storytelling. And I gotta tell you, we had a really fun interview, and we spoke extensively about the perfection of being imperfect and what that looks like and how you can do that and how you can move past your blocks, your fears, your worries, your insecurities, whatever could be stopping you and holding you back from living an authentic and real life. So without any further ado, here's our incredible interview with James Robilotta. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Miracles and Millions show. I am your host, Michelle Humphrey, and today I'm actually extra excited. We have, as you heard his bio, this amazing man, James Robilotta, with us in the studio. Actually, he's in his home studio. I'm in my home studio. I wish we were together, but we're in self-quarantine, and that's not really even an option. But today we're going to talk about the power of being imperfect and living imperfect in today's day and society and world events that we have going on. And he is just like a total master of how to do that. He trains some of the largest corporations, you've heard them all, on leadership and how to step into that authentic role that I believe in our heart of hearts want to, but at times I think most people hold back and they don't know how to be really authentic. So today we're going to dive into that full on with how to be authentic. And actually, James, just to give people a little bit of your history, your short story of how you even got influenced to go down this path and the books that you've written now and all the good stuff. So let's hear a little of your background.
Yeah, first off, what's up, Frank? Good to hang out with you, Michelle. Thanks for having me on.
Woo, woo. Yeah.
Let's go. Lovely. So, we got to spend time together just a few weeks ago. This is the last time we were both outside, I think. And super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. First time caller, long time listener. I am excited to be with your people today. My name is James Robilotta. I'm a professional speaker. And, but it's funny. I actually, if you take it back a little bit, I majored in marine biology in college. But around my junior year, my professors realized I was putting too many jokes in my scientific papers, and they were like, "We don't know if this is for you, James." And Michelle, they were right. So I went ahead and got a master's in counseling, and then I worked on some college campuses for a while, developing teams, developing leaders, and really loved that work. And at a conference, somebody came up to me one time, and I was just there sharing information with colleagues who just presented a little session. And somebody came up to me and asked me how much I charged. And I politely looked that man in the eye and said, "I don't know who the hell you're talking to."
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Because I wasn't trying to be a speaker, right? I was just trying to share information, but then I realized that maybe I have something. And so that's how this whole speaking thing happened in my world. I realized that I have a talent for it. And so now I've been on my own since 2013 as a full-time professional speaker talking about authentic leadership around the country and hosting my own events. So that's me. I wrote a book called Leading Imperfectly. I write the way I talk. So if you like the way I talk, you'll love it. If you hate the way I talk, you'll hate it. So there you go.
There you go. Well, let's kind of carry this into the workforce and let's just talk about the power of living authentically and what are you seeing are the benefits for people who really, and what allows them? Let's first talk about, because we're talking about the miracles and millions, the shifts of perception. What allows someone to go from being inauthentic and maybe feeling like, oh, they need to make a sale or they need to put on a different face or a mask to how do you help shift them into what are maybe some key things to help them live authentically and the benefits of living authentically?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a number of ways. I think a lot of us get stuck. It's a really human thing to get stuck from time to time. And I know for me, where I've often gotten stuck in my life is that I don't think I'm enough. I don't think I'm, depending on what's going on. Back in high school and college, if I was trying to date, I was like, you're not hot enough. I was trying to get a job. You're not smart enough. You're not cool enough. You're not whatever enough. And so I think a lot of us fill in that sentence of like, I'm not blank enough. And
Yeah.
so that causes us to then have to mentally try to make a shift of like, all right, well, if I'm not blank enough, then I need to try to be more like so and so or more like them. Like they probably didn't mean to hire me. They probably meant to hire someone more like this. And then in trying to be that other person, they're living and leading inauthentically because they're saying, I'm not good enough, right? I'm not whatever enough. And so let me be this other person. So I think that's one of the first steps is to recognize that you were hired for a reason. You started acting on these dreams to be an entrepreneur for a reason. Your person who you're in a relationship with decided that you were indeed enough. And so what would happen if we started to believe it?
Wow. And what would happen? What do you see that starts to happen when people believe it, that they are enough, that they could be who they are really put on this planet to be?
I think that we as humans, we carry a lot. A lot of us have a lot going on, right? Whether it's family, financial, emotionally, or our past and things like that, and also these insecurities. And every single one of these things is a different brick that we carry. But when we start to own them and work through them and realize that we are enough, then we start to live a lighter life. And it's just so freeing. It's freeing to be able to show up to a space exactly as you are with your personality. It's really beautiful. And so that's one of the things that I think it really enables us to do.
Yeah. And are there specific things that you teach people to help them to do that?
Yes, I think one thing is starting to recognize your patterns. I think, we as humans are pattern generators.
Yeah.
For example, if I were to tell you tomorrow, I want you to brush your teeth with your other hand, you would have to be like, well, hang on. Does it even fit?
Right.
Does it even work? This, or you're like dropping the toothpaste in the sink, right? Like your body is conditioned to do that in a certain way because you've done it for however many years. We also have these patterns of thought about ourselves. I don't know if you were like this, Michelle, but for most of my life, from being a young boy to a grown adult, I was taught that I should be kind to other people, but I wasn't taught that I should be kind to myself until I was like 32.
Wow.
And so I had 30 years of pattern of me making fun of myself or putting myself down or thinking I wasn't whatever enough, that I needed to unpack and get through. And those were patterns of thought and so that's really, I think that's one way that we really specifically is start to recognize your patterns. And I think our friends can help us out with that too. The people who are closest to us, especially as we go into things like business, for entrepreneurs or for managers, those patterns of the way that we talk to people that we don't regularly recognize that we're in a pattern. And those are the kind of things that once they get pointed out to us, then we can start to catch it and then start to change it and pivot.
Yeah. So are there people in your life that have helped you to shift your perception of yourself and what you deserve and really are meant to do? Like how specifically did you uncover that? Because it seems like you're very aware of, I call them mega patterns. People live in different mega patterns. And one of the large ones is I'm not enough, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, right? So it kind of just sounds with the way that you're speaking of your past, that was probably yours. Whereas my old mega pattern, as an example, was like, I don't matter. Right. But regardless of you don't matter, or, some people are like, oh, the fear of loss is a mega pattern, or they see the world through right, wrong. There's all these different ones. But here's what I want you to dive into is what helped you to, one, be more aware of it, but then two, to shift your perception.
Yeah. For sure. Because the shift has to happen.
It has to.
otherwise,
Yeah.
otherwise we stay stuck in these mega patterns. I love the way you put that, Michelle. I think that, I think, first off, how you become more aware of it is through other people, frankly, or just from looking in the mirror. I think if I were to have you do an exercise right now where I told you to fold a piece of paper in half, hot dog style, not hamburger, Michelle, hot dog.
Hot dog. Okay. That's so funny. I've never heard that. Yeah.
Don't get crazy here. And on one side, I told you to write out how other people view you, and one side, write how I view myself. how do other people view you as a leader, as a professional, as a relationship partner, as a spouse, as a entrepreneur, whatever it is, and kind of list all those qualities out that they would say about you. What would they say your weaknesses are? What would they say where you need to grow? And on the other side, same thing. What do I think about myself as a leader? What do I think about myself as in a relationship, as a friend, where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? And then comparing those two lists. I think most people, the list where they talked about what other people would think about them versus the way that they think about themselves, that list would be kinder. I know for me, if I were to write that out, the way that other people think about me would be a way kinder list to me than the other one would be. And so that's an interesting kind of self-reflection activity that people can do to really see like, oh, shoot, look at the way I think about myself. What if I thought about myself the way others did? Would I make decisions more fearlessly? Would I speak up a little bit more? Would I apologize a little bit less? Right? So those moments for me are huge. You asked who are some people that did that for me? I mean, it's cheesy, but I love cheese, Michelle. But my wife is one of those people for sure. She's someone who helps me get out of my own way and calls me out on some of my patterns. I tell people it's way easier for me to love her than it is to let her love me. Because sometimes I'm in a pattern of I don't deserve that love, right? Like I messed up as a man. I did this one time in a relationship long ago, and I should still be held quote unquote accountable for that. That's not real, right? And so she encourages me to be kind and to recognize that I deserve that love. I've also had, interestingly, on the other side of the coin, I've also had reverse role models. I'm sure you've had some reverse role models in your world, Michelle, where there are individuals that you're like, oh, the way that you're doing it and the impact that you're having on others around you, I never want to do that. For example, I had a supervisor who whenever I would ask her for feedback, she would be like, if you're doing anything wrong, I'll tell you. Or she would call me out in meetings. Nothing was ever her fault. And when you looked at the way that the people around her would react around her, no one would ever go to her for help. No one would ever go to her and admit like, hey, I'm struggling with something, or even approach her with ideas, because she would steal those ideas and make them her own. She was not an authentic leader. And so I was like, I need to be different than that. I need to create a different space for my people.
Awesome. It's so true. And, I've heard it as, there's either the people who are modeling what it is that you want to create, or they're the warning for what you don't want to create. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So let's, because you've really risen to being an expert in your field here and writing a book on leading imperfectly. Let's talk maybe about some of the key things that the book touches on.
Yeah, for sure. Basically, the idea is that we as humans can't learn from people who are perfect. We can only learn from people who are imperfect. And so think about the times that we're in right now, right? We're in the middle of this quarantine where no one knows what's happening. There's an ambiguity of timeline, so no one can really accurately prepare. All we can do is handle what's right in front of us. And we could try to brace for the future, but we only have our now. And so during stressful times like this, we have to let ourselves be a little bit imperfect, because we don't know what's happening. But there's something freeing about that. There's a weight that comes off of us when we recognize we don't have to be perfect. And so for leaders, in order to help others do that, ways that we can do that, it falls a lot on the role of relatability. And I think relatability and credibility are two different things in leadership, but they often get confused for each other. But the way that leaders relate to their people is really important. And so I encourage leaders to lead through their slips, through their struggles, and through their falls, because that humanity is powerful, right? When we see ourselves in someone else, we believe that we can. And so when leaders are able to create that moment, when they're people who follow them are like, oh, shoot, I can see myself in this person. Maybe that means I'm on the right track. Let me keep trying. Let me keep innovating. Let me keep not being afraid to fail. So I think those are the powerful things that I really try to touch on.
That is so huge. And, just to bring this to like as an example, I haven't been like the big social media person, and I haven't been big on Facebook Lives. And, just through this whole COVID, and really out of the necessity of, and I teach so much on peace and prosperity that, hey, people are really looking for more peace and prosperity. And I started a 30-day challenge, and I committed to doing a Facebook Live every single day at 1:00. Now, exactly what you're talking about, being vulnerable and imperfect and authentic, and because I've committed to it, and it's like I'm doing it and you're live, and it's just this, oh my God, dogs are barking in the background, or my husband's like, honey, where are you? Or it's like I haven't been able to go out and get my hair done, right? And I'm like watching as I'm looking like, oh my God, like the gray is just like popping through it. And we're just like so having
Perfect example.
fun of it. And there's just something, you're right, because you use the word freeing, and I want to go back and actually dive a little bit deeper into why is it so freeing when most people are working so hard not to let the imperfect out, right? Like it's freeing when you do, but maybe it's scary, or like, what are the stages maybe that you see people go through before they really come out and allow themselves to be imperfect and authentic?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many things that we're still trying to prove in our lives, right? Like you think about young leaders, new managers, brand new entrepreneurs, where it's like, everything's gotta be perfect. Like, cause there's that feeling of, since you haven't been through it, since you haven't weathered a storm before, you assume that every storm is the end. Right? You assume that every negative conversation, every bad review, every whatever, it's like that would be it. Like, oh, they could fire me at any point, or I could lose the investors' hope in me at any point. And so there's a sense of urgency versus individuals who have weathered those storms and been through it and come out on the other side, know that not everything is hypercritical. And that there are things that you need to be cautious of, and you always need to be learning from what you're dealing with. But these aren't end points. They're just bumps in the road. And so that's a place where I think a lot of people struggle. And I mean, you talked about what is it about? Like, why is it so hard to do? And I think that it's important to remember it's harder to act. It takes more effort to act than it does to just be. And so that's why it feels like we're working so hard to be perfect, because a lot of us are acting, right? We've heard the phrase "fake it till you make it."
Yes.
But let's be honest, if all you ever do is fake it, you never really make it, right?
That's true.
And so it's okay to fake it for a little bit. I'm not, let's all be humans here. But I think we also know what it's like to go to bed at night when we lived an authentic day and when we lived a completely fake day. Right? We know what it's like to look in the mirror in the morning and be like, all right, I got to put on this face of this perfect person again. And, I'll take it off when I come home and put my slippers on again. There's an effort to it. There's a sludge to walk through. So yeah, that's what I've noticed, if that makes sense.
Oh, of course it does. It totally makes sense. And, maybe just to create some of the distinctions though, because I do agree, like if you're working so hard, that is effort to be something that you're not. I can remember, I think it was my third grade, or was he third or fourth grade, doesn't matter, science teacher who was like, listen, I never tell a lie. I only tell the truth. And he was teaching us as a class, it's because it's a lot easier. Like, you've got to remember the lies. You got to remember exactly what you said. And he's like, you're going to get caught. You will mess up one way or the other. Whereas like, if you're telling the truth, it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Right. And I remember this like lecture. It was a science teacher, and I don't even know what prompted it for him, but the entire class was about that. And by the end, I was like he made it safe to tell the truth. He made it smart to tell the truth. He made it that you would be the hero, if you kind of like told the truth. And for me, I live by truth. It's like one of my top, like, if you talk with me, I want the truth. Just tell me the way it is. Don't make up the story. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't, partly tell me it. Just tell me it all. Right. And I go back and I know where that came from. And it's exactly what I hear you say. It's this, you got to be all of you. All of you, the good, the bad, the messy, the ugly, the whatever it is. And the more real and authentic that you can be, the more free that you are. And here's what I would say. You would also know the deeper part of you. Like, like so many, I'm a coach and I've been a coach for 20 years. People, they're frustrated because they know that they were meant for more. They feel like, their life should be further along and their business should be further along. And then, so it's this, I get people to step into their vision. I get people to step into what's really deep inside of them. But it's the combination of what I hear you say is, we got to do it with all of you. We got to do it from that. You deserve it. You are enough. And we got to find how you really are meant to do what's deep inside of your heart.
I love that, Michelle. I'm curious, actually. I have a question for you. I don't know if that's allowed on here, but
It's everything's allowed at this point.
I'd be curious. We met for the first time just a few weeks ago, right? And when
Yeah.
you walk into a room, you're very striking, very beautiful, very put together, right? You know how to put an outfit together, and you carry yourself with your chest out. And your head up, right? In a place of confidence. And, it's very exciting to be around someone like that. I love getting to have dinner with you, but I'm curious, like, when was the time where that wasn't who you were? Like when was the time where that wasn't you and that you kind of struggled to believe in yourself?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I felt like my whole childhood was that, but I'll tell you what shifted it. It was this energy where I was carrying so much mental pressures and stresses and feeling like I didn't fit in and I didn't belong and I wasn't wanted. Like my whole thing was, I don't matter. And when I learned to understand it was what I was doing inside of me, it wasn't my experience. It wasn't the outside circumstances. It wasn't how much money I made or didn't make or, who I was friends with or wasn't. It was what I was doing inside of me. And I still, like right now, especially with this COVID and everything, I learned to be a meditator and I learned to get out of my own thoughts and out of my own way and start putting in my mind what it is that I really wanted to create and who I really wanted to be. And as I connected with that, what I would call my true self, right? I think most people tell themselves lies and they are saying that they're not enough when in fact they really are enough, or that they don't matter where in fact they do matter, or they're not loved where in fact they are loved, right? So I learned to discern truth from falsehood inside of me. And then I was like, I gotta fill myself up with truth, right? And here's what I know truth is for every single person on this planet. Truth is something that lights you up. Truth expands you. Truth makes you more loving and kind and peaceful and happy and healthy and prosperous and rich. I mean, for 20 years, I've been a business coach and no one's ever come to me and said, Michelle, help me to feel stressed. Help me to feel overwhelmed. Help me not to make money. Like no one's hired me for that. Like we're wired to feel good. And that's because it's our truth. And the more that we can connect with that and fill our minds with that and train our minds and then start having, actions being taken that support that and put, especially with businesses, systems and strategies and structures in place to ensure that we achieve it, then our life becomes so much better. And it didn't happen, to answer your question, overnight. It's happened over, weeks and months and then years and decades. And it's this, I've grown into someone that, I enjoy now.
That's beautiful. I love it. I love that. That's incredible. Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that story with me.
Oh my God.
And I know you share it with other people, right? I mean, if you
Yeah,
didn't
I
go
do.
through that, you wouldn't have this podcast. But like that's authentic leadership, right? Like that
Yeah.
moment right there of just like, here's where I was and here's where I am. But a lot of times leaders tell the story of I was hired and then I was successful, or right. It's like, I had an idea, a dream for a company, and then it got bought out for this many millions of dollars. We don't tell the dash of our story. You're familiar with the dash concept, right? Of the dash of like on our tombstones. He lived from this date dash to this date. But what did you do with your dash? And tell the story of the dash of your business. Where's the times where you slipped, messed up, struggled, and those times where you're like, I'm not good enough to even be here, or whatnot. Those are the powerful stories, like what you just told us, that are they're the moments that we create that enable other people to believe they can. And so it's so beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. So how is it that you went from kind of really that probably struggling? I mean, listen, I've done a ton of speaking things. I'm a coach, I'm a trainer. We put on live events and, you started, okay, like someone's like, hey, how much are you charging? You should get paid 9 years ago. But it's like, what did you do working against this, I'm not enough at times, to really build such a successful business speaking practice?
Yeah, for sure. So I like to tell people that, as you heard, I have Bachelor of Science in Marine Biology, Master's in Counseling. There's no hidden Harvard MBA in there, right? Like, I mean, most of my knowledge about business I got from Shark Tank. So I guess shout out to Mark Cuban. No.
That's cute.
But seriously, for me, my business is built on relationships. And that's something that I guess people aren't taught that is business. But it really is. It's, I lead with heart. I lead with my heart before I lead with my head. And so, I come for connection. I come for those moments where you will remember me because of the time that I gave you and the effort that I put into whatever moment we had together. And those kind of things are what create memorability. So that when it comes to that point where I'm like, hey, I got a new program, or hey, I got a new project that I'm working on, or whatnot, those are the times where people come flocking, or they share it. Like, I just posted, I'm doing a thing on work-life balance here, a free webinar type thing here during the quarantine, and people are flocking to it because they know that I do things with intentionality and with care. And so for me, that was one of the biggest things that I learned early is how do I build those relationships? And what is it like to build that network of people who believe in you and beyond believe in you so much that they want you to succeed and want to use whatever they have to help you succeed, whether it's their network or their wealth or their company's budgets or things like that. Yeah. And I know that's cheesy, but you don't look this good not eating cheese. And so,
that's choice cheese. You kidding me? That is like the most profound thing. It is. It can't be overstated. It's one of our basic needs to build, I believe, close and connected relationships. And the one good thing I believe that's definitely going to come out of this self-quarantine is realizing how much we love people and we love being around people and how much people really matter to us. And to be able to say that, I will say a lot of the business owners that I've worked with through the years is the ones that I've seen right prior to working with me, because I give them all the kind of tools that they need and the mindset training that they need to really come. But the ones that have built like the strongest of the organizations, it's because exactly what you just said, James, they value the relationships. They value people. They realize that people are just not another cog in the wheel, and their success happens so much quicker, right? Because there is a foundation that people like them and people trust them, and people are going to say, yeah, we're making some shifts and changes in the business. And you know what? I know that you're for me. I know that you want the best for me, and they're on board. And I've watched the organizations that I go in to help, right? And they've not valued the relationships. They've not valued the employees or the contractors. And we go to make the shifts, and you watch it. It's like, we can eventually make shifts, but a lot of times we got to bring in new people. What I saw is like, you cannot be successful on your own. And they burnt the bridges, right? Like they've ruined so many relationships. Yes. Just because you pay somebody doesn't make them a raving fan, right? And we've got to create relationships that we look exactly like the way, I'm seeing you right now on video, but like we got together in a room, right? And there's 100 people in the room, and all of a sudden I spot you. I'm like freaking flying across that room to be like, James, how are you? Right? And it's like, you want that. You want to be that person that values that person, looks forward to that, seeing people and knowing that person and knowing what makes them tick and bringing out the best in them. So I couldn't agree more. So cheesy, I'm extra cheesy with you.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. I love what you just said. I think I agree. The most valuable asset that we have in life is time. So, especially as adults, we learn to be very picky about our time. And so the ability to build trust and build relationships, like you said, we were at a conference with 100, 150 other people. Yet I repeatedly wanted to give you time because I felt like you were worth my time. And wanted to give you that gift of my, like, and back and forth. And it was a cool moment, but we could have done that with anybody, but this is where the connection happened. So yeah, I agree with you.
Well, like attracts like, right? So we definitely were brought together. So maybe let's give some people some tips, if they're not feeling so connected, or this is not their experience and they've not been so great with relationships or being really authentic and being honestly who they really want to be deep in their heart. What are some key things that you might say, do this or focus on this? Or
yeah, I think first I would recognize your patterns and try to think about what patterns you're in and why are you in those patterns? What are you? A lot of times the things that keep us in patterns are fears of being seen as less than, or not making somebody proud, or not being, like we talked about, not being blank enough, or fears being seen, whatever. Those kind of things are our patterns that we're in, our fears that hold us in our patterns. Also, a lot of us on the path to success, we also put up our own roadblocks where we say, okay, well, if I can just get blank, then I can finally do blank. I need to get blank and then I can do blank. But the first blank you often don't need. You've just convinced yourself that you need it. And so removing some of those barriers that you've put up and just move, right? Like it sounds, I know it sounds a lot easier than it actually is, but you are enough right now in this moment to do what you want to do. And I know that I don't even know any of you, but I know that to be true. So I think that's one of the biggest things for sure. I think also if you are feeling stuck, then I would reach out to individuals that you know care about you and care about you to the point where they listen to you and understand the time that they're going to give you and ask them for feedback. Like, where are the places where you see me struggling? Where do you see the patterns that I'm in? Where do you see those kind of things? Because I think I'm trying to work on some of them and I don't know what I can't see yet, but maybe you see it. But those have to be individuals that you trust, the individuals that you're willing to hear their feedback. This isn't just like go out on the street and be like, what do you think of me, pal? Right? It's about those individuals and telling them exactly what you need. I think those are the biggest steps that people can do right now. And I think oftentimes when we open that door to vulnerability, so many people walk in. And when we're open that board just to be a little vulnerable to each other, and it deepens friendships, it deepens working relationships, it deepens romantic relationships and marriages.
No doubt about it. I will attest. I've been married half my life, and the greatest bond that has really, I believe, kept my husband going 26 years of, being together is we started off as coworkers and friends, and then we became best friends. And we actually knew each other when he had a girlfriend and I was dating someone else. But it was just like, we're that real, we're that authentic, and we knew how to be that way from in the beginning with each other. So really key, because, always talking about, hey, the business side of things. I mean, corporations pay you big money to come in and speak on this topic and train on this. How have you noticed that being authentic and being so genuine as a person benefits the bottom line, the ROI?
Yeah, for sure. Authentic leadership isn't always seen as the leadership style that would lead to the most efficiency in a company because it takes a lot of time up front, right? It's a lot of conversations. It's a lot of rapport building and things like that. But the fact of the matter is that communication leads to trust and trust leads to loyalty. And when you have trust in company, when you have loyalty in company, then individuals have more courage to make decisions, and they make more decisions on their own because they're not so afraid of what you're going to do to them as a leader. So authentic leadership is about the idea that we should lead through love and not through not through hate, or through fear. The authenticity of a manager, of a supervisor, directly correlates to their employees' ability to innovate. Because the more free someone feels, the more they feel like, hey, I don't have to be worried about failing. I don't have to worry about trying. I don't have to worry about, I can just do all those things and know that I'm going to be okay. And know that I just need to learn from them and keep it moving. I can't keep blowing the company's money, but still, I think those are the moments where we really notice it. The workplace culture, it just shifts. People come to work, and anytime you can feel like yourself, I mean, the conversations are better, and people want to work there. They're excited about it. They talk about it to other people. And that stuff carries in. I mean, those are things that you feel where if I know a friend who works at a place that he absolutely loves, when I see that company's products, I'm like, oh, they're good people there. I like supporting good people. And so it's just something that it just trickles. I mean, you can tell when someone's talking from a place of generosity versus a place of scarcity. And if there's a scarcity of love and a scarcity of trust at your workplace, it's coming through in the way that people talk about you and whatever product you put out there.
Absolutely. And I do believe that's when we finally feel like we're so accepted, when people know like all sides of us, right? Again, been married half my life, but it's just this like, man, this guy knows everything about me and he still loves me. And there's that, oh my gosh, right? And we want to let people into all sides of us, all parts of us, right? Yes. Because as you can be that real, be that authentic, feel that vulnerable, yet you realize you're still lovable, right? You're still good. You're good enough. You matter. You make a difference. And we got to let people in for all sides. And honestly, I think that's what I've loved almost more about this whole self-quarantine than anything. Like all the, oh my gosh, like I don't want to get on camera or I'm not camera ready. It's like, there's days I'm so not camera ready, and I've been on the phone where people are like bedheads still. I'm like, all right, you can put a little effort into it, right? But there's just something that's like, kids are running in the background, dogs are barking, right? And we are over here juggling like we are all in this together, right? One of the like pretty famous pop singers even was tweeting about this COVID experience is a great equalizer for all of us, right? Doesn't matter how much money you have or what is going on. We're in the same world. We're self-quarantining no matter where we are, and we're dealing with a pandemic. And, the more real we can be and just let people kind of see all parts of us, I just love it. So honey, I just love you. I celebrate you. You are an amazing man. You inspire me. You light me up. That's one of my favorite things. I'm always looking for like what lights me up, what expands me. And when I met you just a short month ago, which feels like a long month ago, I will tell you that, a long month ago, that there's an energy about you that is just very charismatic and attractive and contagious. And I love it. And I love hearing what you're sharing. And yeah, so tell people about a little bit more about your book and maybe even like the little free giveaway you had mentioned and how they can find you and get your book.
Yeah, for sure. Right back at you, friend. And thank you so much. I mean, I totally agree with everything you said and would bounce it right back to you. I mean, you are indeed a light, and I am happy to have been illuminated by you. So thank you, friend. I'm James T. Robo on all social media platforms and at jamestrobo.com. James at James T. Robo is the email address. So, I mean, you get the idea, you know how this thing works. But yeah, feel free to connect with me any of those places. And yeah, my book, Leading Imperfectly, is available wherever books are sold. And if you want to get a preview of it, then we'll put a link, I think, in the bio, I believe, of a place where you can get that information, where you can hop onto my website and download the first 3 chapters for free. Just to kind of get a taste to see if you like it. So yeah, thank you so much.
I'm sure you'll love it. He said it. If you like the way he sounds, you're going to love the way he reads because it's just the exact same thing. So you're going to love him. James, thank you so much for being on the show, Miracles in Millions. I loved how you can help people shift into being more authentic and how really this benefits not just the bottom line, but each and every area of their life. You are an amazing man, and I've so enjoyed having you as a guest on the show. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It's been an honor to be a part of this, and it's so exciting to get to meet your people. Thank you.
Be a part of the conversation on Facebook and become a Miracles and Millions manifester at michellehumphrey.com/connect. Let's play together because living miracle-minded is the gift you give yourself that has a massive impact on others and paves the way to make you millions. Your time is now.